Guys, welcome back to the Kings of Scream podcast. I'm Daniel.
I'm Tyler.
And Tyler, what are we reviewing today?
We are going to do Halloween 4, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Try that again.
Shit.
The Return.
The Return.
The Return of Michael Myers. It's all good.
I did a lot of reviewing of different movies today.
It's all good. No, so we are doing The Return of Michael Myers. And yes, so the...
I even had it wrote down right there.
Oh, it's all good. So anyways, we're going back to 1988. And the story surrounds... it's been 10 years since the events of Part 2. And
totally forgetting number 3.
Yeah, we'll move past that. We'll move past it. And so Myers wakes up from a coma and goes after his niece. And seemingly the only person that can stop him is Dr. Sam Loomis. So,
and Loomis has always got to be the one that's...
Oh, it's his Ahab, man.
Yeah.
Like, he's got, he's going after him.
The opening scene, though, when Michael is in non-police custody hands.
Yes.
Do you think that's just the dumbest thing in the world? Like, this guy has slaughtered people left and right, and it's like, oh, it's okay. We're just going to push him into an ambulance.
I would say, in all fairness, if he's been comatose for 10 years, I can see them getting a little lapse. Now, we as horror fans know he's going to wake up and just go on a killing spree. But I would say the typical person would be like, well, they've been down for 10 years. Now, I would have maybe not transferred him on Halloween Eve.
Yeah, maybe,
at least wait,
Maybe pick a day in August.
Exactly. Why risk it? But so before we get into this thing, let me just ask you: did you ever see this before, or is this your first time watching?
I've seen it before, but I didn't see it until high school.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, what was your initial thoughts? Like before reviewing it for this episode, what was your thoughts going? The first time you saw this.
I like how they continued the story. Like they just pretty much picked up like Loomis. That. Everybody thought Loomis was dead, obviously, from everything that happened. And then, he shows up all scarred.
Yeah. And
I was thinking, okay, so what is the point of not... how am I going to say this? They show him blowing up, but then again, he's okay. Yeah, he's not completely dead.
I think they were going to... I think they even said they were going to shoot a scene... where they were going to explain all that, where like the blast knocked him out of the hall, like down the hallway. Yep. So it's like it got him out of the way. So, but because of the budget and everything, they decided not to go forth with it. I think their thinking was probably just like, if we just move past this, everyone else will too. So yeah, they're just like, so Loomis is alive and so is Michael's.
Yep.
All right, here we go. And then they just keep going with it kind of thing.
But they had to know that there was going to be people out there that are wondering, how did he survive?
Didn't he blow up? Like he was at ground zero of that explosion.
I mean, he was literally, standing 3 feet away from Michael?
It's like he wasn't even like near the doorway or anything like that. Like, so there's no blasting him down the hall. So it was like, no, he was in the room.
Because he was laying next to the tanks when that...
Explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so, there was no. So yeah, in reality, he probably should have been dead, but I guess they're thinking, well, it happened off screen, so we can always, some debris fell in his way or something like that and shielded him from the fire.
I think that they knew that they needed him to be in that movie.
Honestly, yeah, because Jamie Lloyd was just flat out like, I'm not coming back to it, and so it's like, yeah, you got to have some kind of legacy character aside from Michael Myers, who could be played by anybody under a mask, but with Loomis, you got to have that driving force. And I think these new trilogy that just came out proves that beyond a shadow of a doubt, because my God, they tried to replace him with this weird guy in the 2018 version, and that sucked. And I don't know. You got to have
It's hard to, find people to replace the great original.
Exactly, and that's the thing. He's such an iconic character too, an iconic actor playing an iconic character. So it's like, yeah, you can't really just skirt around that. Or he had a son who's here now. So it's like, you can't do that. You got to have the regular guy show up. For me, the first time I watched this was back in the 90s. I was probably 10 or 11, probably around that age. This is actually my favorite one for the longest time. Love this. There's aspects about this that, like, I'm a big fan of trapped in a house movies. And so when they barricade themselves up and they're trying to keep Michael Myers out, like, I love that whole thing. It becomes like this kind of under siege kind of film here. And so I'm always a big fan of those kind of, horror films. One. Two, especially when I was a kid, I was always big on child-centric main characters.
Yep.
I love the fact that, because again, it's from their perspective. Things are a lot worse when you're a kid. You're more vulnerable to something like this. So it is easier to kind of, buy into, even if the kids make dumb mistakes. It's like, well, they're kids. Like, they're supposed, they're not supposed to be completely smart or whatever. And so, I don't know, like movies like The Shining, which, you got Danny, Torrance as the main character there. I love movies like that. The Phantasm series, you had Mike. I was a big fan of him. So it's just like, growing up, I can always identify with the kid characters more, like the It, miniseries. And so anyways, that was another just big plus on this. I really dug, having this kid to kind of, vicariously kind of be in this adventure with, And then, like I said, aside from that, I think this has some of the coolest kills. The fucking thumb through the forehead in the beginning, I love that. This fucking...
I have a really favorite kill in that movie.
I'll bet it's probably my favorite kill. Go ahead and say it.
It was the guy that was they got thrown on top of the...
Bucky on the power supply, or power thing.
He's like, just, what are you doing? Don't even talk to him. Just turn around and run as fast as you can. And he walks off like, yeah, nothing's going to happen to me, but hey, he's going to grab a hold of you, he's going to throw you, and you're,
I just love that, because in Bucky's head, and the only reason we know his name's Bucky because it's on his hat, and I guess in later years, he grew like a weird internet cult following where people just like Bucky. That's the only reason I know his name. But anyways, I like when he's just like, hey, I'm going to call the cops. You stay right there. Yeah. And I'm like, let's just say they were kids. Like, do you really think they're going to stand there while you go call the cops and then wait on the cops to show up? So it's like, yeah, Bucky, you got what you deserved. For me, my favorite kill is shotgun through the chest. I love that when he takes, and puts Kathy Meeker right up on the wall. Very reminiscent of how he put Bob on the wall with the knives in part one. So, okay, so we got that out of the way. So let's get into rewatching it and kind of going through this movie beat by beat, I guess you could say. So, they did part 3. It was a commercial failure, a critical failure as well, and the fans just fucking hated it. So they knew right off the bat, we got to get Michael Myers back. So right off the bat, when they're doing this fourth one, they go to John Carpenter, who then in turn went, I forget the guy's name, but another guy who wrote the script. And the initial script was going to be like more like the spirit of Michael Myers was coming back, and it was just going to show you like the town of Haddonfield kind of falling into this chaos or whatever, which was something they tried to do with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, but I think they just kind of missed the mark of how that happened. What do you think of that? Would you have been okay with that, or do you think they went the better route of actually just doing a straight-up slasher and,
keeping it as a straight-up slasher? They had a lot of things, that happened, like the WGA strike that they had.
Yeah.
Okay, so they wrote the script of it in 11 days.
If that just got turned in like mere hours before the strike, went down. So, yeah.
So that, they knew that they were going to, it was kind of like really a time crunch of.
Yeah.
So you don't have a chance to go over things that maybe, which, they add more death, kill scenes afterwards. Yeah. Because I guess they, once again.
Well, so in part 2, they did the same thing where it was like, well, this ain't bloody enough. We got to at least add some more violence to it, So.
But a lot of people got violently killed. And I think this one, like so far out of the first, the 3 of them there, this one has some pretty violent kills compared to the other ones.
No, I agree.
Of course, the ending of it, you have the little girl standing at the top of the stairs with a knife.
And so, they decide to go ahead and just, pitch this, or scrap this completely and go with the standard, which I agree. I don't think they'd be able to pull off, nor I don't think the fans would really want to see a more cerebral, psychological Halloween. I think, for the most part, especially at this time, they just want standard slasher. So I think they did the right choice. Like I said, this is one of my favorite ones. It wasn't until years later that part 1 became my favorite of the franchise. But this is still like my number 2, hands down, like easily. But no, it really is. I don't know. I didn't care so much about the return of Michael Myers as I guess most people did, because in my mind, I was already a kid when part 6 was out. So it was like one of those things where it's like, I knew he came back. So it wasn't like I was just like, oh my God, bring him back. No, it's like, I knew he was going to come back. So to me, that was a big deal. So when I watched part 4, it wasn't like I was just like, finally he's back. Like, no, he was already here,
And to pull the movie off, they made 12.7 million dollars without Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, yeah. Which at this point, she was actually a big superstar. She had gone on to do Trading. Like, she became a name now. So, she did Trading Places and she did something else, but I don't remember what the other one was. But she did 2 big movies that just blew up. Maybe A Fish Called Wanda, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, yeah, she was already, big time now. Which is kind of douchey and shitty. She's like, I'm not coming back. It's like, really? Like, do you think it's going to hurt your career? I don't know. It's kind of odd. It seems like she only comes back whenever she's not really doing anything else, and it's just like,
Then the H2O movie, she pops up.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It seems like, as soon as she had nothing else going on, she's like, okay, I'll come back now.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so it was a straight up slasher. Carpenter didn't like that. He, wanted to go different with it. And I guess Deborah Hill was the same way. So they basically sold their rights to the script to, I can never pronounce that guy's name, Mustafa Aka.
Yeah, I was trying to pronounce it earlier. It was no way.
I'm pretty sure it's first name Mustafa. So Mustafa. So anyway, they sold the rights completely to him, which turned out pretty well for him because he turned out several sequels and made a shit ton of money. So which is always like, man, like, I don't know. As much as Carpenter pretends like he cared about the first one, why would you give rid of your rights? Like, I feel like I would want to stay. But I guess then again, if he would have stuck around, we wouldn't have got 4 then. We could have been a different path. But yeah.
I can imagine what kind of direction it would have went.
Yeah, again, I don't know, having him in your corner. But see, I don't know though. It is one of those things like, if we did this, we may not have gotten Prince of Darkness, which was, the movie he did around this time. So, I don't know. Maybe, one of those things where it's just like, maybe it all worked out the way it should have, I guess.
He did like to butt heads with a lot of people when it comes to
He seems a bit like an asshole in real life. Like, I hate to say that, but every time I've ever, seen interviews with this guy, he just gives, short little shitty answers to people, and he seems bitter as fuck. And it's like, dude, you're like the king of horror.
Yeah.
You are the horror director that even after you're dead, people's going to probably say you're the best director for a long time. I don't know, maybe 50 years from now, maybe somebody will surpass him. But I think until then, he's got his legacy secure. So it's like, why are you so bitter and bitchy about anything and everything? I don't know.
Maybe he felt that he was owed more.
I don't know. I think for some weird reason, I don't think he really likes doing horror films. I think, that's kind of his bread and butter. But I think he always wanted to branch out. I know for a fact he always wanted to do a Western. And for whatever reason, he could never get anybody to give him money for a Western. So he's always kind of stuck doing horror movies and fantasy, sci-fi, whatever. But, but the other thing is, too, every one of his movies, for the most part, with the exception of Halloween, when they come out, they bomb or critically are just shit on. And it's not until 10, 15, 20 years later, people are just like, those movies are classic now. And he's just probably thinking what the fuck? I told you they were classics back then. You guys didn't believe me. This is why I just sit around and smoke cigarettes all day.
Rotten Tomatoes gave this movie a 38%, which is...
Yeah, 33.
33. Which is really...
insane. It really is. Not just that, IMDb even now has it kind of low. It's a 5.8 on IMDb, which I was kind of shocked. That's not horrible, but I figured it'd get a 6 point something at least, because it seems like good movies get 6 and above, and then 7's really good, and then you have to be a masterpiece to get 8 or 9 on IMDb, because that's just really critical shit. But yeah, in fact, they had a 5.8. I'm just kind of really, guys? This is today. I get back then people shitting off. It's it's considered a classic now, but apparently not. Apparently people still crap on it. Okay, so that's kind of getting it going. So they write the script, and of course, the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis is just not coming back. They pivot to she had a daughter, and they even I forget what her name initially was. Yeah, but they end up calling her Jamie Lloyd just to
Jamie Lloyd.
Yeah, to give it that kind of nod to her and everything. The only big thing about this was, I guess, the original ending. Sheriff Meeker was actually going to get killed. They were going to have the showdown at the end was near the end was when Rachel and Jamie are on the roof and Myers is chasing them. Well, apparently there's going to be a fight in the basement, and somehow it was going to knock over an oil lamp and the house is going to go up. And so this big showdown is going to happen on top of the roof, just like it does, with a fire going down. And then Sheriff Meeker is going to sacrifice himself, fight Myers on the roof while the girls got down. And then I guess the place would explode. He would either die at Myers' hands or die in an explosion, but it'd be a sacrificial death. But when they decided they didn't have the money to do that, they kind of pivoted and went a different direction, and Sheriff Meeker actually survived. So,
yeah. I think that keeping everything in the house at the end would have been the best idea.
It does. See, I don't know. I kind of agree, but at the same time, it's like, man, I do like that finale on the road. Like, it's ridiculously impossible as it probably was for Myers to hang on underneath there like Cape Fear style and just hang on as they drive down the highway. They stop, talk to some troopers, and then keeps going. And then he's able to, like, Spider-Man from underneath and come out on top. Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, but it's still a pretty fantastic sequence, though. I mean, killing all the crazy rednecks on the truck, tossing them, So, I don't know. I'm kind of half and half on it.
I felt like when they were doing that scene, though, in the house, that they could have, like, left a lot of possibilities open.
That, and I feel like you had a lot of tension still in the house. I feel like that's the thing. Like, it's the scariest when it is in the house because, again, you're trying to keep that evil out, and and once it's inside, now you can't get out of the house. So, I will agree. I think the movie works best when they're at the house, but I guess getting out and extending it and going, to the school and to the highway and finally down to where the fuck they were at in the end when he shoots him down a mine or a cellar or what was it, a well? I don't know. Some kind of weird construction site, but
probably like an old mine. But
I think it's what supposed to be.
It felt like a graveyard just sinking in.
Yeah. It was just such a weird fucking location.
And then the little girl is, of course, laying in front of where Michael is, and they're like, "Get down!" And then you have all these guys shooting guns over the top of. I'm like,
they're trained professionals.
You're shooting shotguns. It's got a pretty wide spread.
It does have a good spread to it. It's got a nice spread.
And it's like, the little girl's okay. Of course, they probably would have been a lot better if she would have stood up because she did kind of go on a little killing spree of her own.
I love that. Kind of jumping ahead there, but. I love that whenever it's revealed that she just killed her mother. I don't think the mother died. I think in part 5 they retcon it and they're like, well, she just stabbed her. I can't remember.
Yeah.
5 is one of those, I don't know. I don't watch as much as I used to. I used to like it more. Now I'm just kind of like, But I think they keep her. But either way, Loomis goes for his gun. He's going to shoot that 7-year-old girl right in the fucking face. He's just like, no. And I'm just like, oh shit, Loomis. Like,
and then the cop's face, when he turns around, he's like, what are you doing? He turns, and he's like, oh shit, you got to be, no, not again. Here we go.
So it's just like, I don't know. I love that whole sequence there. So yeah, he was going to gun her down, no problem.
Of course, she was wearing the clown outfit.
Which I dug that whole aspect of it too. I don't know. Again, they pivot so much. They give you like what you think they're going to give you, and then they end up going left turn every time. But it's like it would have been interesting to see what they would have done with an evil Jamie Lloyd instead of taking it away in part 5. But it's just like I don't know. It would have been a cool concept, I think. So, anyways, another thing they were kind of a little theme here that I thought was kind of interesting was that. Michael, so the guy who wrote the script, I don't know if it comes through or not, and maybe you thought it did. To me, I don't know. I just always figured Michael was just trying to kill his bloodline, and that's the whole thing. But the writer claimed that he didn't write it that way. He initially wrote it as he's just trying to reconnect with Jamie Lloyd, but the fact that he's psychotic, he doesn't know how to do that, so it comes out with violence and anger or whatever. What do you think of that? Like, do you think that could be like a possibility that maybe Michael isn't trying to kill Jamie Lloyd as much as he's just trying to reconnect with her, but unfortunately he didn't know how to do that, so killing's the only way he can do it.
I don't think I could see a possibility of him trying to reconnect with anybody. I think that part of him
is gone.
They pretty much showed it as is non-existent.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when Loomis is always explaining about him. Yeah. He always explains the darker side of Michael.
You're talking about like he's human or something like that. He's not. He's not a man.
He's not what you want him to be. Mm-hmm. But I like how they keep it as the same as he just wants to kill everybody.
Yeah. And see, I agree with that. I like the fact that it's, again, they'll explain it more in part 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, that it's almost like he's driven to just kill the family almost, and I like that better than just
ending the bloodline.
Yes, and because I mean that's what happens here. Like he's in that ambulance. It's not until they start talking about do you have any living relatives? And they're like, oh, he has a niece, and he's like, what? He brings up. So it's just like I don't know. I like that part of it. I like that part of the story. Because I mean beyond that, it's just like I don't know. The idea of him.
What do you
just
want him to do? Like walk into the sunset holding hands?
Well, that's the thing. Like they did that with one of the Texas Chainsaw. I think it was Texas Chainsaw 3D, where he brutalized. Like Leatherface kills the main girl's. I don't know if you've seen that one or not. But that's where he has it's a cousin or a niece. I don't know. It's a relative somehow. But he kills all of her friends brutally. But then at the end, they try to play it off like, well, he's actually the good guy, and turns out there's an evil farmer or something, and the girl helps her cousin kill this farmer, and so at the end, it's like she's the new caretaker of his house, of his estate, and she's going to be like the new, and it's just like, did you forget he just murdered all your friends? Like, really? Like, he's not a good guy. This is not a, So, again, yeah, I agree with you. Like, yeah, what do you want? Like, that tender moment where he's, like, got Jamie Lloyd on his shoulders and he's just walking into the sunset like, we're going to be family now. I'll take care of it.
Tender moments like that belong in certain movies. It does not belong in...
Not in Halloween.
No.
Yeah, keep it out of a horror,
I mean, unless you want Michael to walk off with his knife. Sure. Yeah, into the sunset. He's walking to maybe another town. Whatever. But the whole fact that they keep him in the same, I guess, mindset of what he is what helps fuel this trilogy of movies to go back, But they realized what they did was when in making 3, they screwed it up. So when they went and made the movie, they're like, okay, we're just going to continue from 2.
Yeah.
I like that. But what I don't like is if you're going to do that, the ending of 2 obviously is a little weird.
Yeah. We got to suspend disbelief. Like we said earlier, somehow Loomis survived. So maybe a metal cabinet fell between him and the blast. We didn't see it, so who knows?
It's a Hollywood thing.
It is. It's like what it is.
Now, there was a lot of issues after this movie came out where they wanted to ban Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you guys are taking it a little bit too far.
Yeah, no, it seems like it happens every time any major horror film in the 80s was released. They had to ban it, try to stop it, didn't want, kids to rent them or whatever. And by doing so, and I think it's kind of funny that this one was the opposite where they actually added more blood at the end. Because you look at like movies from this era, from Friday 13th, was the opposite, where literally the MPAA would be like, no, you're going to have to cut some scenes out before we can show any of it. And so at the same year this came out, burping up my soda here, they had a Friday 13th Part 7, A New Blood, and there was a lot of scenes in there, and you watch the DVD, that were so much gorier and bloodier and messier. Yep. And the MPAA was like, no, we're not having any of that. Because, again, they were cracking down on horror films at this era, which is a shame because, that's what really kind of stopped the whole slasher, boom at this point. So,
well, you're coming out of the 80s. You're going in, they're looking at things differently coming into the 90s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. It's a transitional change. And, it's even around this time that, they were starting to attack music more. This was around the time that Twisted Sister and Judas Priest were being hit with, all kinds of claims from parent groups and church groups and everything else like that. So, it wasn't just movies being hit. It was, censorship across the board. But it's just kind of like, guys, they're movies. Like, Jesus Christ.
Just leave it alone. It's not like it's...
Well, it's like, even today, people are just like, violent video games are causing... It's just like, wait a minute. You realize that we've gone through several wars, the Crusades... the Holocaust. This all happened before video games were even invented. So it's like you can't blame violent society on video games, movies, or music. It's like this shit's been going on forever, completely forever. I'm not going to say that's not going to inspire a psychopath here or there, but in the large scheme of things, no, it's not going to drive everybody insane. It just doesn't work that way.
Canceling a freaking holiday, though.
Yeah.
That's like the dumbest shit. When I read that, because I didn't know that before.
Yeah. I remember they were talking about it in certain... It's always a small town. It's never anything major, but it's always like these small towns that are just like, we're going to try to do away with Halloween here or there. I know Salem, Massachusetts was really against Halloween. Not the movie, but the holiday itself. and they kind of hate the fact that they're known as like where the Salem witch trials took place and all that stuff. But it's also their bread and butter because guess what happens? Tourists come from all over the world to check out where this took place, but they're almost embarrassed by it, but they're not too embarrassed to take their money. So it's just like they have to like do that double edge, like, well, we don't like this, we want to ban that, but we do like all the attention and all the money we're getting. So I guess
we're really horrible, feel horrible about what happened. But if you want to go pay $39
exactly
over here real quick, I think the money part of like this movie itself.
Yeah.
They started out with a $5 million budget.
Yeah.
I mean, they did increase it to 7. They got it up to 17 on how much gross they made.
The overgross, yeah.
I just don't see why they would want to go away from the trend of how they've made Halloween 1, 2, and 4.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Well, I think that's the problem though is they do kind of,
which they do.
Yeah. Like I don't know. It's like. They were all going a certain way, and I kind of wish we would have followed that. They try to make 5 almost like it just rinse and repeat. It is almost do a carbon copy of 4, and I think that's another problem. Is definitely it's bad to stray, but it's also bad to keep doing the same thing. You got to find that happy middle ground. I feel like this is a good example because in this one, it is kind of the same kind of story, but it gets bigger. Like I said, now we got Loomis back. We got Myers, trapping them all in the house kind of thing. It's like, I don't know, you think the original concept was just, the boogeyman stalking one person. Now he's, got sisters. He's chasing these sisters around, they're trapped in the house. So I think like, they took the original concept and beefed it up a little bit, like a sequel should. However, you just can't, you got to keep building upon that. And I feel like they quit building after this. Like after this, they went back to just slash. In fact, part 5, I'm not sure if that's what we're doing next or not, but to me, that's the one where it kind of loses its feeling of a Halloween movie and becomes more like a Friday the 13th, where it just feels like it's a slasher with no soul. It's just killing for the sake of killing. I don't know. If we ever get to that, I'll dive more in on that. But so anyway, let's talk about the cast a little bit. Like we said, Donald Pleasance comes back, which was awesome. Again, I feel like, especially these early Halloween movies, you need him. You gotta have. I mean, to me, it's the Batman and Joker. It's Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers. I love that, and I also love the fact that like he shows no fear. Like he'll confront Myers like anytime. Like he'll, and it is kind of weird. Like especially in this movie where when he's at the diner and Myers already killed whatever people, and when he confronts him, Myers doesn't try to murder Loomis. It's like almost like he's kind of scared of him. Almost like Loomis is the only person who can somehow talk him down. I don't know if he can or not, but the way Myers will bolt and run from Loomis, it makes you think, like, holy shit, like
he did the same thing at the car garage.
Yeah. And so it's just like, I don't know. I like that dynamic there.
Maybe he feels like, or I guess he felt like keeping Loomis around to show him what he's doing.
Could be. I mean, like I said, it's very odd, like, this guy who's a killing machine, who's trying to kill his niece and everything else, but for some reason when it comes to Loomis, like he doesn't try to kill him. At least not in these early ones, like at all. It's like he's just trying to escape him as well. Even in the school later on, he grabs him, he throws him through like the window or down the stairs or something like that. He throws him somewhere. But that's it. Like nothing. He doesn't go in for the kill. He doesn't finish the job. It's like he's going to get one track mind, and it's like it doesn't stop with anybody else. Like anybody else gets in the way, he'll just fucking flat out kill him, stab whatever. He had
a lot of opportunities to pick Loomis up by his head.
Yeah,
and just snap his neck,
and he just doesn't. So it's an interesting dynamic that they don't fully explore. And I kind of wish they would have maybe touched on it a little more.
I would have loved to have like a backstory to why Michael always seen Loomis as a different person. Now, it may have been because Loomis was, he needs to be, in this mental ward instead of just going and trying to kill him.
Yeah.
He kind of like had like a little feeling for each other.
And I think that's one thing that Rob Zombie did touch on in his version a little bit. He did try to flesh out that relationship between Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers. So, but anyway, so Loomis is back. Like I said, Jamie Lee Curtis declined to come back. So we are introduced to our new actresses. We got Danielle Harris playing the role of Jamie Lloyd.
Yep.
I love Danielle Harris. I guess I grew up watching her. I was a kid when she was a kid kind of thing. So always liked her in horror films. She would go on to do Urban Legends. And then she actually did an episode of Goosebumps too. Or not Goosebumps. Erie, Indiana, and liked her in that. And then we find out later on that she comes back in Halloween, the remake with Rob Zombie, and she's done a lot of like straight-to-video horror films too. I think she was in Stakeland and there's another one. I'm blanking. If you're listening, Danielle Harris, I'm sorry, but she's done a lot, in the field of horror and everything. And then Ellie Cornell would be Rachel, and I don't know much of her movies as much as the other as Danielle Harris. I know she's done more horror. I've seen her in one of them. Oh, I think she did that. Did you ever see House of the Dead?
Yeah.
I think she was the sheriff in that one, or the female cop in that one, but I don't remember fully. But either way, I know she
had shorter hair.
She had short blonde hair in that one. But they bring those two girls in. I think they did really good. They would both return in part 5. However, short-lived for Ellie, and then where Jamie Lloyd would continue to survive. However, she would get recast in part 6. Again, we'll cover that when we actually get to this. Of course, we got George P. Wilbur as Michael Myers, which this guy apparently he wore some padding to make Michael Myers look a little buffer. He wanted to make
he wasn't really built.
No.
Like they wanted him to be,
which
previously.
I don't think he wasn't like Nick Castle was huge either, as well in the first one. I don't know. I feel like the only thing I really want to change, I guess, is if he was in a coma all that time, maybe he would have gained a little bit more weight. But I guess it's not really buffness as much as it would just be Michael Myers getting fat.
I still think Nick had the best movements.
Yeah. No, I agree. I really agree with that. Yeah. So anyway, but I read too that I guess everybody was really mindful of trying to make sure that they go easy with Danielle Harris. They don't want to scare her on the set or like that. And I guess he's a really cool guy where in between takes he'd take his mask off and be like, hey, I'm not really trying to hurt you like that. So
you don't want to traumatize them.
Absolutely not. This movie has, to me, the best look of a Halloween movie. In fact, the opening credits, before they get to the hospital, when you just see the opening, you see all the farmland and the houses. I don't know. This to me feels like when you're watching it, not just because it was not shot in California like the first one, where you had green trees and then leaves on the ground. No, this one, it feels like you're watching it Halloween season, like that. I think it was shot in Utah.
It was more darker.
Yeah, it had, the look of it, just the atmosphere. I think it has a lot more atmosphere to this movie. I think that's probably why I like this one so highly, because to me, it feels like I'm watching an actual Halloween movie.
I think they did a good job of growing on the movie until we get to a certain parts of later on movie.
Yeah.
But Halloween 4, I definitely would have to put it second.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. What I'm saying, it's an easy number 2 for me because, like I said, I think the first one's just such a masterpiece that it's kind of hard to budge on that. But at the same time, it's this is a very good follow up. This to me is just whereas I like part 2. Don't get me wrong, I like part 2, but this one, I don't know. This just has this checks more boxes for me, I guess, overall.
Which is weird because Jamie Lee Curtis really made number 2 a little. No, you don't feel
for
that
me.
way.
Not so much. I don't know. She was just. And I'm not trying to be ageist, but she just looked older. Now it's distracting, and then her bad wig was distracting me. And it just seemed I don't know. I loved her in part 1. My God, she was perfect in part 1. But by part 2 rolls around, I'm just I don't know. We did. To me, the director, producer, we need to bring her back. You don't have to bring her back. I'm good.
So you're okay with her not coming back in 4?
Yeah. In fact, I didn't need her back in H2O or the Halloween 2018. We could have just left her out completely. She's not a character that I have to have. I feel like Loomis is more the character I want as opposed to her. And she does great in H2O, don't get me wrong. She's good in the newer one. I just don't like the storyline. But no, she's not really, I don't know.
I wasn't a fan of her haircut in H2O.
Yeah. I don't like short hair Jamie Lee Curtis. I like the older Laura. Although, fucking True Lies, she looks good there. She looks really good there, short hair and all.
When she, gets her hair wet.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yep.
So, we had, when they were shooting this thing, we had a couple injuries on set. One guy who was the lighting guy, apparently one of the rigs fell and sliced his wrist during the filming. And so they had to rush him to the hospital and everything. But dude sewed it up, got back, no problem. When they was on the roof filming, Ellie, she slid down the roof. And apparently there was a nail sticking up they didn't know about. And it got her right in the stomach. And they had to also shut down, rush her to the hospital. Apparently, though, she's a trooper as well. Got back up, came back, worked, finished the scene, everything else. So good on you, Ellie. And then apparently, because they were shooting a lot of late nights, kind of a funny little story I read was Donald Pleasance was pretty miserable shooting. Because he's old at this point, and so he was kind of miserable and cold. So he kept wearing this like winter hat, but they forgot to tell him to take it off. So he would shoot certain scenes like wearing a hat, and then they would put the film together and be like, "Oh shit!" Like he has a hat on one scene, not the other. So they had to go back and reshoot a lot of those scenes again. I was like, "Holy crap!" So this little extra thing I thought was kind of funny. Did you notice the mask changing hair color in the school scene?
I did not notice.
So there's now I've heard two different stories. So I don't know what's actually true. So in the scene where they're looking, where Donald Pleasance, Sam Loomis, and Jamie are going around school, and when Michael jumps out and gets him and throws him through the glass window or what door or whatever, if you look closely, his hair is blonde, whitish. Now, here's the two things I heard. The first thing I always heard, and this is what I thought was true for forever, was that there's a sequence where they hit him with the fire extinguisher. Mm-hmm. That takes place after that, but they shot him in reverse. So when you see him with the blonde hair, it's not necessarily blonde. It's just that white shit in there. And it looks like it's blonde. That's the first thing I heard. But then when I started doing the research to do this podcast, I started reading different reports of apparently they tried to buy a new mask and they was going to give him a totally different look. And I was like, so we just bitched that we didn't have Michael Myers back in part 3, and now you're going to try to change up his look? To me, I don't buy that, but that's what I read, where I guess they decided to go blonde. They shot that one scene. It was like, nope. But they forgot to take that scene out. I don't buy that for some reason. But apparently they did interviews with different cast and crew, and some of them are corroborating this. So, again, I don't know.
You cannot.
Yeah.
You can't. I really, really hate when they feel like they should change the main character's looks.
Yeah.
Because you're building the foundation of the movie off of what he looks like. Well,
don't wait this long to series. That's the problem with part 3. It's like, if you want to do an anthology series, fine, but you do it after part 1. Then you do part 2, whatever you want to do, not that. Don't, wait a long time to be like, I'm going to do a weird change. No one will accept it then. I feel like the look will be the same thing. It's like, we are established that we like this Michael Myers. We liked him for 2 movies. You took him away. We got mad. You're bringing him back, and you're going to give him blonde hair? Yeah. That's ridiculous.
That's not something. I mean, it'd be like taking, Jason or somebody, and just totally switching up what they look like.
Give him a weird Christmas Cosby sweater, and he's just walking around like, hey guys, takes the mask off, and he's like, I'm not wearing this anymore.
I mean, the movie is built on what he looks like. Yeah. I mean, I think what he looks like plays a really big role.
I think you can evolve the character's look. You just can't drastically change it one way or another. So it's like, Jason, you got the guy, you got the jumpsuit, you got the hockey mask, but then in one episode or one movie, he drowns. So the next time we see him, he's decomposing. He looks, you can see his skeleton coming through. And that's evolving the character. You're not necessarily drastically changing it. Even though it is a change, it fits with the character. Why would you have Michael Myers grab a brand new mask and wear it instead of the mask? Clearly, if you had the mask laying around, which they do, it's like, why would he grab a different kind of mask? That makes no sense at all. But
go ahead and take all of his hair off of him too. As many times as he's been set on fire.
Now, I will admit that though, and this is one thing that a lot of people will disagree with me on. In Rob Zombie's 2, they go without the mask because in that one they messed the mask up and it's all ripped and bloodied or whatever, and so he goes maskless in part 2 of Rob Zombie's version. I didn't mind it, but a lot of people bitched about it, so I don't know. Maybe I would be in the minority there, but to me that felt like a natural progression because we actually saw the mask deteriorate or whatever, so you see him growing out of that, whereas. And that was part 2. I mean, they only changed it from part 1 to part 2, so it wasn't like they went 3 or 4 and then tried to do something different.
He's still wearing the same coverall.
Yeah. They didn't change that. So we already talked about the fact that they shot some extended scenes to add some more blood and gore to it. So the score, we brought in Alan Horworth. I don't know how you pronounce it. he actually did the music with John Carpenter Part 2, and he actually did a lot of the music with John Carpenter. He did The Thing, Prince of Darkness, I think Big Trouble in Little China. Like, he's one of his, like, regulars, you know. So they brought him back. Of course, Carpenter, you know, was gone completely, so he did it all himself. Which I like the score here. I think, you know, they kept enough of the original Halloween theme, but then they added some more, you know, different, you know, tunes or whatever at the top of that.
They give it, at like one point in the movie, they give it that really fast vibe, which I like that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Especially when it's going to be like a certain scene.
Well, it adds to it's almost like it's less horror, more thriller, more action, you know, in base. So I really, you know, dig that right there. And so when this thing opens up, it was number 1 for 2 weeks in a row. Opening weekend made $6.8 million. Would go on to get $17.7 million worldwide. But like we mentioned, it got a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. Of course, not back then. Today's Rotten Tomatoes. And a 5.8 on IMDb. Initially, all the reviews were really bad for this one. No one really gave it a chance. It wouldn't be until years later when people would go back and rewatch it that they'd get. And which I get that, because usually the critics of the era, unless if you're just an artsy fucking horror film, usually gets bad reviews. Like, horror film just doesn't really do good review-wise. But it's the kids who are watching it at the time become the next generation of critics, and then they're like, "Oh no, that's a classic."
Yeah.
And so and this is no different. Like, literally, you talk to anybody our age, and they're gonna be like, "Oh no, this is a brilliant fucking movie," and you know, they're right.
And I still think that the direction that they went in the fourth one, I think that was the best direction.
Oh, absolutely.
That they could have taken.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. There was a lot of, you know, because like the first and second one, there's a lot of car chasing, you know, car driving scenes. It's like, okay, in the fourth one, we're really going to nail it down to just one area.
Yeah.
And like the house scene, I still like the house scene.
The house scene's great. But, you know, it does have other great set pieces. Like I said, the garage scene in the very beginning, you know, mechanic place. I love that. The cafe, diner, whatever we'll call it. That whole sequence, I think, is brilliant. This has so many, like, odd little scenes I love. I love Loomis and that weird religious guy riding together in a truck. Like, it's just like, it has nothing to do with anything, but yet it's like, it's a brilliant scene. I love that scene. I just love where he's just like, you know, oh, you're chasing it, ain't you? I can see it on your face, you know. It's just like, it's so weird, but it's like, I don't know, it fits perfectly in this movie. You know, I love the scene of the multiple Michael Myers popping out.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great scene as well.
And they're never hesitant just to pull their guns out and want to shoot kids.
Oh, they'll shoot kids all day long. The only thing I can read about that one is it's a cool shot, but it's like, it doesn't make sense. Is like whenever they all get that, and then they do it and drive away, and then you see the real Myers standing in the middle of the road. It's like, how did they not see him? You know what I mean? Like, you think they'd be like, it was those
they
kids
always miss the 6'5" guy.
The actual killer of the group. The only other note I have here, and I thought it was kind of weird, I didn't really hear a lot of this growing up until I was an adult. So when Rachel picks up Jamie at school, she has her friend Lindsay with her. And apparently, again, I never heard this until later in life, she's supposed to be Lindsay Wallace, the girl that was babysat in the first movie, All Grown Up. They didn't draw attention to it, but they were like, that's the plan. She's going to be a whole character later on. And when you got the three boys at the drugstore, of course, Brady's the main kid that we see. You got Wade, who's trying to hit on, you know, Kathy Meeker. But then there's a third boy there they never mentioned by name. Apparently, he's supposed to be Tommy Doyle. Again, we don't bring it up, but apparently they were planning on involving them more in the script and just never, you know, fleshed out or whatever. Now, whether it's true or not, I have no idea. This is just what I read. But for years, I didn't even draw those connections at all. So whether or not that's what the thing is supposed to be, who knows? Because I know that, you know, we will bring back Tommy Doyle in part 6, but as of right now, I don't know. It just seems kind of odd that, like, he's like a well-adjusted kid hanging out with the jocks or whatever. I don't know. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. But what did you, I mean, did you even know that, or did you?
I didn't know that, but I like how they always find ways to keep the door open for something else to happen.
Yeah.
You know, they always give the opportunity. We'll put it out there. We'll see how it rolls. And if it really doesn't pick up as something that people want to see, then we'll just totally cut it off, never act like it happened.
Exactly.
And then, you know, the fans will forget about it, you know. But I like that. I like how they have bunch of storylines within the story itself.
Yeah.
I think it keeps it fresh.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Absolutely.
If you keep rolling with the same, it's just like, okay, where's this going to go? But if you put in the extras and you say, okay, we got 3 or 4 different options of ways that we can go about doing this.
Yeah.
And then they all figured out, okay, yeah, this is going to be the way, but we're still going to leave them options open because we can do whatever we want in the next movie.
Exactly.
I like the thinking.
Yeah, no, I agree. Again, there's nothing wrong with trying to expand your mythology a little bit, you know. So we're at the end here. Anything else you want to add to this?
I didn't realize this, but through all the kill scenes, Michael had a total of 97 kills.
Really?
Which, to me...
Now, series-wide, you mean?
Series-wide.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Series-wide. That's... I think it's a little low. Because I looked at other movies and other... like
I know Jason has, like, one of the biggest kill counts. Yeah, he's...
Which I couldn't see him trying to top, the kill count in Jason. Because... there's a lot more people.
Well, I feel like it's all about region, too. So, like, Jason, he's taken out people who trespass on the Cancrus Lake, area. Freddy is going after a street of the people who wronged him. Michael's only going after family, and anybody gets his way. So it's like, it's a smaller pool for him. So I guess it does kind of make sense that, his wouldn't be a ridiculous, insane number. But I see what you're saying, though. You'd think he would have gotten, at least triple digit by now or whatever, but... Well, maybe, when we're adding the new Halloween movies in there, maybe they'll boost it up. I know he goes on a crazy kill spree in Halloween Ends, or not Halloween Ends, Halloween Kills. But, all right, so today, your final thoughts on Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
I easily give it damn near a 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
I enjoyed watching it, rewatching. I actually watched it twice because... it's like there's a lot of things in there that if you don't watch, you catch the first time, you notice the second.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's easily.
It's damn near a masterpiece. It really is. It's one. Like I said, it's one of my favorite horror films. Period. It's my number 2, and that's not too far behind Part 1. Like Part 1's untouchable. This is very damn close for me. So.
I say they're number 1 and number 4 are pretty much dead even when it comes to how great they are.
Oh, agreed. Totally agreed.
And it also shows you don't need Jamie Lee Curtis to make it great.
Absolutely not.
Because the cast that they had in
the cast and the story are perfect on their own. So.
And then they knew that, we had to bring Loomis back because he is like the lifeline.
He's the heart. He's the glue holding this birdhouse together, so. Alrighty, well, I think that about does it for us on this one. Anything else you need to add? Or?
I just would like to say that Halloween 3 is trash. It's a dumpster fire.
We may have to hit that at some point in the future.
Golly, man.
So, anyways, I'm Daniel.
I'm Tyler.
And guys, we'll catch you next month.